All right. Hey, Lydia Roberts, MAPS coach. So many of you have been are growing your business. You're at the point where you're about to hire. Maybe you've already hired an ISA and you have questions. So I had the opportunity. So Anna Kruger, who is a MAPS coach, she has been an ISA, grew a big ISA team, and now coaches other ISAs. I had the opportunity to spend some time with her a couple of weeks ago. She gave us these coaching fundamentals pieces that I'm going to be sharing with you today. And to make sure that as you're bringing that person on, we're really hiring at a great level. Now, the cool part, let's say you don't have an ISA yet, or you're not hiring an ISA. You are the ISA, right? We wear different hats, right? When we're an agent without an admin, we're also our own admin, right? When we, as we grow, we bring in an admin, we bring in a transaction coordinator, all of those things, and then we start giving some of those hats away. So keep in mind some of the things that I'm going to share with you today. If you don't have an ISA, then are you doing this in your business, right? So this is going to touch with everyone. If you have questions, call me, text me, email. Okay. All right. So diving in, there's also the other piece that I will say is there are 2 MAPS programs. When you go to getmapsnow.com, go to the group coaching, there are 2 MAPS programs that you're going to find that you are going to choose to invest in as you're progressing to be able to hire an ISA. One is around hiring. The other one is now that I got them, what do I train them, right? So they're both really, really good, and you definitely want to dive into those. Now, ISA stands for Inside Sales Agents. When we talk about inside sales agents, other people may say telemarketers. They may say ISA or OSA, outside sales agents. Like, am I calling out or calling in? For our purpose today, this is going to that whichever one of these you call it, that's what I'm talking about. All right. Now, so where do we find an ISA? When's the right time to bring them into the business? So this is the goal of going over these so that you know some of the resources and fundamentals, right? So these are the top or core pieces to know when you're mastering this ISA position. So number 1, the inside sales is a sales position. So Anna, again, that had the opportunity to share around this, make sure, and she's trained thousands of ISAs, right, at a high level. When people hire an ISA, they hire someone that has a customer service background. Now, or that's what they tend to do. Now, this is what I want you to be thinking about it. This position absolutely involves customer service. And what MAPS is finding is that when coaching people who are more customer service versus sales oriented, they say things like, I feel bad, I feel pushy, I feel uncomfortable closing for the appointment. So it's very important for you to know that this is a sales position. You can hire someone who has a customer service background because that's a huge part of the job, and yet ensure that they are screened to ensure that they are the type of behavioral style who will go for the results. That's what we want in this role, right? They're in essence, they're a rainmaker on the lead generation side of the team, right? Number 2, what should you expect for your ISA? 75% of their day is spent on lead generation or lead conversion, 75%. So if they are an 8-hour workday, they should be at least 6 hours actively working with potential buyers and sellers. So take into, their training, their going to team meetings, things like that. 6 hours a day should be that lead conversion. Number 3, when they are new, you're going to focus on contacts. 40 a day is very common. It's a reasonable number for a full-time ISA to hit. Now, this is phone conversations. You may be having text and email, sure, but we're talking 40 contacts on the phone. Now, consider that if they aren't hitting 40, then number 1, it's going to take an extremely long time to build their pipeline. And 2, well, what's keeping them from doing that, right? So their job is to be on the phone, bringing in business. So if they're not doing that, what are they doing, right? So making sure the awareness of the understanding of what their job is, right? If they're not talking to people, what's getting in the way? Let's make that change, right? Now, keep in mind also, who are you having them call? If it's just circle prospecting, that may be your challenge. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Number 4, an ISA should practice scripts for 15 minutes daily. Now that's a seasoned ISA. So after 90 days. But during that first 90 days, they should probably be a lot more than that. A good practice is to actually give us one script at a time, right? That way they're not overwhelmed, and then make it a reward. Like, here's a circle prospecting script. I want to give you more. And to get that, I want to get the access to more. I want you to memorize this and demonstrate it to me without having to read it word for word, and that it sounds natural, like a conversation. Once you can do that, that's the tipping point to get the next script. All right. Side note, 6 contacts an hour is average proficiency. 6 contacts an hour is average proficiency, right? So what keeps from doing 6 an hour, maybe they're reading all the notes before they make a call. Maybe it's because they're only circle prospecting, right? So what list are you having them call? Things to that effect, okay? Number 5, things to track. Okay, now so this is going to cover like 5, 6, 7, and 8. All of these kind of go together. Okay, so just be aware of that. So number 5, things to track. Your ISA has a business within the larger business. So for them to know how to manage their business, they have to know their numbers, and these are the essential numbers to show, right? So dials to contacts. If you're taking a note, write these down, or actually they're on number 7, right? So the essential ones are number of dials, number of contacts, set appointments, held appointments, signed agreements, number of closings, right? So we're just, and I love, right, number of signed agreements. The agent and the ISA are responsible for these. Number of closings, the agent's responsible, the ISA tracks, all right? We're going to talk about why that is such an important piece in this circle in a minute. Reasonable expectations for a trained ISA that's more than 90 days of experience. Dial to contact is 12% or higher. Now, one thing that we've discovered, Anna, through all of this training, is she's very against having a dial goal, right? She even shared that when she was in her 20s and she first started pulling up the list, like let's say that she wasn't close to her dial goal, it was 4 o'clock. So, and yet her goal was dials. So she would pull a list where she knew nobody would answer, and she would go through quickly so that she could get her dials. Now, she has a great work ethic, and yet the challenge is that she is, the challenge becomes that the goal inadvertently drove her to the dials instead of the goal, which is the contacts, right? So our goal is contacts, okay? So the reason we track dials is if you ever have had a bad day, right? We've all done this. No one is picking up the phone. Well, if you're tracking and you look at it and you have at least 12% of people picking up the phone, well, if you're tracking it and you know that, then you go, hey, that was just a feeling. It's not true. I've got at least a 12%, right? Even as an agent, when you know your numbers, you go, man, nobody was picking up today. Wait a minute, I had at least a 12% pickup, right? So if your ISA says no one is picking up the phone, then look at the pickup rate. So that's why we track the dials. So dials to contacts, 12% or higher, contacts to set, 5%, set to held, 70%. Now this is for a trained ISA. So more than 90-day experience, they can hit 70%. So more than a 90-day experience, right? Now they're looking, we're tracking 70% set to held, and held to signed 80%, and signed to closed 80%, right? All right, so that's after 90 days. So, so even as an agent, when you've got your ISA, so you're not going to be lead generating all day so it may not be the 40, but what's your 10, what's your 20, what's your morning goal of that lead generation, or whatever that looks like for your business. All right. So number 9, like I said, 6, 7, 8, they all go together. Number 9, this reflects skill. So dial to contact is strategy. What list am I calling? Is it a good list, right? However, once someone picks up the phone, it is 100% skill. A lot of times we harp on contact. At the beginning, it absolutely, those 30, 60, 90 days, it's contact, right? At least 40 a day. And yet when the ISA focuses on contacts, and they're set to held, right? So if they just had better verbiage, better systems to show up, then they're going to increase, right, their hold rate. So again, new, it's 40 contacts a day. After 90 days, it is how many appointments do you need for your team? How many you ask the ISA, how many do you need for your personal goal? Now let's look at the numbers and customize it, right? So even as an agent, your contact goal is going to be maybe different from somebody else based on, once you've tracked it, what is the goal for the team? What is your personal goal? Now you look at the numbers and customize it, right? Now, 10 and 11 go together. People ask, what's the schedule? Anna suggests mornings, best time for people they've never spoken with. Afternoons is follow-up calls. 1 day a week, flip that, because if we're always calling someone the same hours of the day, maybe they have a job that prevents them from picking up the phone. And yet if you call them the opposite time, they may pick it up. So just a general way to look at that. 13, how to retain talented ISAs. ISAs, when they're considering leaving a team, it's typically because they do all the work on the front end and they're not getting the results. Now, what I mean by that, it's not that the team's not getting the results. They're not full circling back to the ISA. So the ISA isn't hearing feedback on the results. So you've hired, if we go back to point one, right, you've hired a results-oriented salesperson. So make sure, right, they're setting things up, they're handing them over. And if they're not hearing back from the team about the appointments, who showed up, did they sign, did they go under contract, that's a very fast way to demotivate an ISA, right? The highest reasons ISAs leave team is because they don't have that feedback loop. Now, in the Mastery Inside Sales class, Anna actually gives you a tracker. Because if it's your first ISA, you probably don't have a tracker, but there is a tracker for your ISA to utilize to help track all those pieces, and y'all have that full circle. Number 14, the best compensation is a base pay plus commission. ISAs on salary, the question then becomes, they start to think, wait, if I'm doing all the money-making roles, like the Rainmaker, yet I have a low income or one that isn't growing, is this really the right place for me? A talented ISA isn't going to stay because because this is the thing, you're going to hire smart, talented people that are results oriented, right? Now we've also seen maybe like, oh, if you set an appointment, you get a bonus. Sometimes, right, goals lead to the wrong outcome. That structure may lead an ISA to set bad appointments because they want to get paid. So now not everyone's like that, and yet that goal could inadvertently set you up for something that you don't want. So set it up for closings. They get bonus on closings. Number 15, this is a career position. A lot of ISAs leave when they feel the team diminishes that role, right? You might hear agents say, well, I started as an ISA and then I graduate to an agent. Well, the person that really wants to stay in that ISA role, if they look at that as this is a stepping stone, that they may, again, this is a results-oriented person, they may not want to stay there because they see that as the team diminishing the role. So the way Anna shared to set this up, and it was great practice, have everybody start as an agent in training. After they've done their 90 days, they then get to specialize as an ISA, sales agent, listing agent, buyer's agent, whatever that looks like. Now it becomes a very level playing field, and it customizes each role versus you start here and you get to move up, which sounds like that's a less than role, right? So quick recap, dial to contact is a strategy. So once someone picks up the phone, it is 100% skill. The first month, appointments aren't typical, aren't typically very good, and yet we celebrate those. We are looking for them to get to a yes. Now we're looking for roughly at least like 7 set appointments that first 30 days, or the ISA doesn't get to stay on the team, right? They've got to have at least 7 set that first 30 days. The second month, now 12 to 15, and by the end of the third month, 20. Okay. Now by the 20th month, they are flowing and they're setting about 1 per day. Okay. But that kind of gives you an idea of what that looks like. Okay. Now there are some things that you can do that would cause them to fail, and I referenced them a little bit ago. If you're only giving them circle calls, that's a circle prospecting. That's a great way to fail. They're not going to be able to set 1 per day from circle prospecting, right? A good rule of thumb. Oh, this is, so who are you having them call? Calling through the database, circle prospecting for sub-owners expires, right? What does that look like? A good rule of thumb also is when you cancel the appointment, maybe you go pre-qualify them, the ISA can get very disheartened because they don't understand why that wasn't a good appointment. So Monica actually shared, bring those ISAs into the room when you're pre-qualifying that appointment, put it on speaker so that they can hear the pre-qualifying. They know if that appointment was a good appointment, and if not, why, right? That helps them get better. That way, by the end of 90 days, they can pre-qualify the appointments. Like, they are going to be your top person, right? Like, their job is to know that that's a good qualified appointment and to set those appointments. All right. So the last piece that I will say, best practice is that this is a licensed ISA, a licensed ISA. If they are unlicensed, make sure you know what they can and cannot say in your state. All right. Again, best practices, they're licensed in your state as an ISA. Otherwise, make sure that you're very, very clear what they can and cannot say to ensure that you stay legally compliant. All right. All of that to say, if you have questions, let me know. You are getting this video and this page with the coaching, the Inside Sales Agent Basics. Okay. I trust this will be very valuable and helpful. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.